What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to FudgeMuppet. My name is Scott, and today I'm here to help you choose which perks you should be using. I'm going to discuss all of the perks in a quest to determine the best perks in the Outer Worlds, the perks that I think have the most benefit for a wide variety of playstyles. As you may know, we've been playing the Outer Worlds relentlessly and have tried a broad range of builds ranging from melee, sniping, gunslinging, companion focused. So I think through all this experience, we should be able to narrow down the perks into a list that we could consider best. I reckon the best way to go about this is to start with tier 1, then tier 2, then tier 3, and then recap the best and try and boil down to 1, and if not, maybe top 3 best perks. So without further ado, let's get into some serious perk ranking and analysis. So let's start with the first perk, which is toughness. It adds 50% to your base health, and while it doesn't seem all that interesting, it's a very, very powerful boost for your character, unless of course you just don't need it because you're a stealth character, or maybe a companion-focused character. But for every character I have used that really gets into the thick of it, like our paladin build or our gunslinger build, I absolutely get this perk, and usually I do get it for most anyways. It also stacks really well with Harvester, but I'll talk about that when we get to it. Next up, you have Slow the World, increasing time dilation meter max by 25%. It's straightforward and comes down to whether or not you use it. Our gunslinger build, for example, lives off these kind of perks, but for many other builds it may not be all that necessary. Then again, it isn't like tier 1 is filled with amazing perks, so it may be worthwhile picking it. Now, we have the Lone Wolf perk, which increases damage by 25% across the board when you are all alone with no companions. Now, it should be pretty clear that this depends on whether or not you want to invest in companions. However, this does rank up there with some of the best perks. Once again, it's pretty straightforward. You're just going to do 25% more damage always, and in my experience, it far outweighs the combat potential of companions unless you put good investment into leadership skills as well as their gear and weapons. So this one may rank up there, but then again, it hinges on a very specific type of play without companions. Next, there is Strider, increasing walk speed by 25%, and Cheetah, which increases sprint speed by 20%. Of the two, Cheetah is far more useful, but with the exception of melee builds and perhaps specialty builds like our Gunslinger, it isn't a crucial perk choice. However, I recognize it's by far my favorite convenience perk, literally trimming about 20% off all of your travel time across the map. But are either of these in the running for best perks? I don't think so. High Maintenance decreases weapon and armor durability loss by 25%, which is more useful for heavily combat-oriented characters, especially without companions, but ultimately falls in with the convenience/quality of life type of perks. Precision increases companion crit chance by 15%, which is a solid boost for a companion-focused character, but again, nothing that makes it anywhere near the best. The Negotiator reduces vendor prices by 20%, which I think is basically a waste of a perk, because I have played a large variety of characters. I've found that through looting, I always end up with huge amounts of bits, mag picks, adreno, bypass shunts, and ammo, so I never really need to buy anything, and when I do, I already have more than enough bits for it. Deadly Demonstrations is actually quite a good perk. It increases experience by 50% from companion kills, and if you build your character around crowd control and weakening enemies while your companions clean up and kill everyone, taking advantage of the good gear you gave them and high leadership skills as well, then you're going to have a good time. You can play it so that essentially all of your combat XP is increased by 50%, meaning that you get more levels soon, which means more skills and perks sooner, which gets you a more complete version of your build sooner. It's one of the foundational parts of our captain build, but of course this won't apply to a good majority of builds who fight much more actively with companions or without any at all. Traveler lets you fast travel over encumbered, to which I would say just have better inventory management, sell more often. I managed fine with a below average strength character, and even if you can't, there is a perk in the first tier called Pack Mule, which increases your carry weight by 50 kilograms, so you're much better off spending on that. Basically, I think Traveler is one of the biggest wastes of perks in the game, especially considering there are even more carry weight perks available in the later tiers. Quick in the Dead is another time dilation related perk, increasing recharge rate by 50%, self-explanatory and useful for characters like our Gunslinger, and of course, tier 1 isn't exactly littered with amazing perks, so most of the time I end up getting these anyways. It's an all-round good perk, but nothing amazing. The a few bits more perk is a waste of time. I just found through looting I would end up with heaps of ammo and consumables, so I just never had to buy any, and sometimes I would go and buy out the store just in case, and that was way more than I ever needed. Increasing their stock by 100% is overkill and completely unnecessary. Resilient is the final tier 1 perk, and it's kind of it just adds a permanent 5 to your armor rating, which ends up being kind of insignificant in the long run. Whereas investing in a 50% base health increase through toughness will continue to pay dividends as your base health increases throughout your leveling. The first of the tier 2 perks is Run and Gun, which I think most of the time isn't really necessary, maybe for a build like our Gunslinger, but then again, a later perk in tier 3 practically renders this one useless by offering 0 movement accuracy penalty for a short time after kills, but we'll get to that. This one, however, is not a best perk for sure. Next, there is the Reaper, restoring 25% of your time dilation bar per kill, which is very useful for a combat character who is chaining kill after kill after kill. I keep bringing him up, but our Gunslinger build uses this perk quite well. However, I can see how it wouldn't be crucial for all characters, like perhaps heavy weapon combat characters may not need to use time dilation much at all, so it's a good perk, but not the best. Weird Science increases science weapon damage by 50%, and I may as well talk about it now. Wild Science in tier 3 increases science weapon damage by a further 50%, so they both stack. Now, these are both used in generating the most amount of damage in the game with the use of science weapons. The Prismatic Hammer with a high science skill and these two perks is completely off chops. It's just an insta-kill machine. So grouped together, they offer some of the best benefits, but we'll have to talk about them more. In the meantime, though, they are in the running, I think, but of course, they won't apply to anyone who doesn't use science weapons. Speed Demon, another time dilation perk, increases movement speed by 25% during that state, and the most benefit I see from this is for melee builds, but for the most part, I don't think it's needed. Even our Gunslinger build didn't use this. It's definitely not best perk material. Scanner is quite a powerful time dilation perk with the right setup. Our Gunslinger build uses this combined with a high perception and high intelligence for max critical damage and max weak spot / headshot damage, meaning that Scanner's 20% boost to weak spot headshot damage in time dilation makes a big difference. Personally, I see this as quite a good perk, especially for snipers or gunslingers, for characters where precision is paramount, but then again, it feels kind of niche. It fits in with a time dilation focused precision build. Even your standard combat-oriented assault rifle soldier may not need this at all. However, it's a substantial combat boost for any ranged character. The Collector increases the range of interactable highlights by 5 meters, meaning you can see things to pick up or loot from further away. Put simply, at best, it's a convenience thing. At worst, it's a complete waste of a perk. Moving on to Snake Oil Salesman, increasing vendor buying price by 20%, meaning you can sell your loot for 20% more. Out of the vendor-related perks, this is the better one because you will find yourself selling loot far more than buying, but again, I found you end up with plenty of bits regardless of character with not a lot to spend them on, so I don't think this is necessary. The next 3 perks of Tier 3 are all companion related. We Band of Brothers, Tag Team, and Rolling Thunder. First of which gives 25% chance to reset companion ability cooldown on a critical hit, which isn't amazing because it's reliant on a critical hit, and if you have a high weapon skill, you may have a very high crit chance, but then again, it's only a 25% chance to reset on a critical hit. It's still decent, but not my favorite because it hinges on quite a few variables. Tag Team gives 25% chance to reset cooldown on the other companion's ability when you use a companion ability. It's okay and useful for a companion-focused character, but for most characters without heavy leadership investment, they'll probably use companion abilities at the start of battle and maybe once more. So potentially you could open up with 3 companion ability uses, but that only has 25% chance of happening. It's not that crash hot. The best of the 3 is Rolling Thunder, which reduces companion ability cooldown by 20% for each of your kills, but then again, that's kind of useless if you're letting your companions do all the work intentionally, like our Captain build does, for example. I'm not a huge fan of any of these perks really, and they are quite niche. A better companion perk is Precision from Tier 1, which ultimately just increases companion damage potential at all times. Now we get to a really great perk, a perk I'd probably recommend for any character that is in the thick of it, and that perk is Harvester, which gives you 15% of your health back per kill, and combine this with Toughness of Tier 1, increasing your base health by 50%, each kill is going to get you back quite a lot of health. For the Gunslinger and our highest damage build, they both used this perk because it rewards you for getting in there and killing non-stop. If you keep killing, you won't die, so it delivers some great synergy for an aggressive playstyle. If, on the other hand, you're pot-shotting from afar or a real avoid combat type, then it's pretty self-explanatory. Ultimately, it deserves a spot among the best, I think, because it makes so many of the most fun and satisfying playstyles function well without having to rely on the medical skill and an inhaler 24/7. Hoarder decreases consumables weight by 50%, once again, waste of a perk, just get better at managing your inventory. Also, consumables aren't even what's weighing you down. You're better off picking the next perk, which is Pack of Pack Mules, increasing companion carry weight bonus by 40 kilos, but once again, you just don't need it. Soliloquy is a perk that increases dialogue skills by 10, meaning lie, intimidate, and persuade, on the condition that you are by yourself with no companions. Now, this is a pretty beast perk if you are a lone wolf investing in dialogue. If you combine this with the Chimera outfit and the Armor Master perk, which we'll talk about later, you get an awesome outcome. We can have a total of plus 30 to lie, intimidate, and persuade, meaning we only need 70 in each to reach a real value of 100. It's definitely a worthwhile investment for the loner. However, this is only the case if you are solving problems with a silver tongue. It doesn't apply to all characters. But now we're at Tier 3. Let's go through the rest of the perks and then put together our best ones. Starting with Wild Science, we discussed this before, it adds 50% science weapon damage and stacks with weird science. Great perk if you use science weapons. Steady Hand is the next one, and it's basically for ranged characters only, and at that, I would say it's quite niche, meaning only characters who are looking for those super accurate headshots and weak spot hits constantly are going to benefit from it. Some may say it's good for snipers, but then you are only benefiting from half the perk. I think it suits best the run and gun type characters, so it's a good perk, but it has a niche use. Now, let's look at Confidence, which is one of the better perks available. In high damage builds like our Paladin or Gunslinger, it's crazy because it makes it possible to chain guaranteed critical hit after critical hit, and honestly, for most characters, it's very beneficial because it will help you clean out mobs quicker. In my opinion, it's a much better perk for those single-shot high damage weapons like a sniper or a powerful pistol headshot or the shot of a gloop gun, something like that, because it becomes a guaranteed critical for your next shot. So you want that shot to be powerful. So higher damage of the shot means higher critical damage of the shot, meaning potentially killing instantly, meaning next shot is a free critical again. See what I mean? This goes excellently with high intelligence, making critical damage very high, and also it's important to note that this is very beneficial for even characters with very low combat skills, because low combat skills mean low critical chance. However, after a kill, that low critical chance gets mitigated by the fact your opening shot is a guaranteed critical. Confidence is a great perk. Speaking of great perks, have a look here at Armor Master, which I think has the potential to be the best of the bunch simply because it's such a great bonus that applies to absolutely every type of character. It increases your armor rating by 10%, which is a neat defense boost, but then it also increases armor skill bonuses by 100%, so doubles them. Meaning, when you have that Chimera suit with a bonus of plus 10 to dialogue skills, that becomes a plus 20. Or when you have those goggles that boost engineering by 15, that becomes plus 30. You see what I mean? Armor Master allows you to use gear to achieve very high bonuses, and if you stack that with companions, you'll have all kinds of high skills that you didn't have to invest the actual skill points into. It's just a great perk with such a good bonus that can be applied to literally any build. Next up, Super Pack Mule, 100 kilo carry weight bonus. Look, I don't know what to say here, but if you need all of these inventory boosts and are still getting them at Tier 3, you seriously need to sort out the hoarding habit. Tactical Master allows you to move at normal speed for 5 seconds in time dilation. It's pretty great for a melee character, but beyond that, it's not really necessary. It also only comes into effect when starting from a full dilation meter, so it's a little bit circumstantial. It's basically to help melee characters close distance very quick at the start of battle. Revenge is a great all-round perk, which will increase your damage by 20% while affected by a harmful status condition like concussion, corrosive, shock, N-ray fire, all that kind of stuff. It applies to pretty much every build, might not be as good for a high dodge skill character because that shortens harmful effect duration, but aside from that, it's really useful. You get status conditions quite frequently in the Outer Worlds, and that slows you down sometimes, keeping you open to hits, so this 20% damage buff can help you close out the battle quicker, so you can move on to dealing with the fact that your pants are on actual fire. The best part again is that it applies to pretty much every single build, but I think because it's quite circumstantial, it won't make it to the best perks. Last Stand sounds good at first, a 30% damage buff while under 25% health. There may be some niche stealth sniper builds that can use this by having intentionally low health for maximum damage, but for the most part, it's kinda not great. It's too conditional to have a lot of use. Usually when you get to the 30% kind of mark of health, you will enter a panic mode and start pumping adreno, so I just doubt people will ever get to that low enough health to take advantage of the perk, and it's quite dangerous to stay below 25% health. Also, Harvester, another great perk, just will not work well with this one at all. Boom Headshot causes 25% damage from your headshot kills to damage other nearby enemies within 2.5 meters. It's okay, it's just more fun. Our Gunslinger build uses it, but it's pretty niche. It's not necessary at all. Don't Go Dying on Me means that you can use the inhaler to revive companions with 25% of their health back, but it has a cooldown of 15 minutes. It kind of feels unneeded to me. I used it for the Captain build, a companion-oriented character, but I only got benefit from it a few times, and if you aren't a companion-based character, then who really cares if they get downed? At this stage of the game, you should be pretty powerful anyways, and should be able to handle combat by yourself. Penetrating shots make ranged attacks reduce a target's armor rating by 1 per hit for 10 seconds, and can stack up to -10. So, straight off the bat, it's a very solid perk choice, but I'd say only for automatic gun characters, like the light machine gun or assault rifle using characters. Maybe it would work well with some burst fire weapons like the bolter pistol, but ultimately the sooner they get hit with multiple shots, the sooner you will get the real benefit of -10 to armor rating, so it really is a perk geared around automatic weapons. Next is Thick Skin, -15% plasma and area of effect damage. To be honest, by the time you are considering this perk, you have either got high base health combined with high medical skill, or you have the Harvester perk, and you probably have good gear with solid armor rating at this point, so really, it's just not that necessary. It's not a bad perk, it's just not great. Tit for Tat returns 15% melee damage back as health, and I'd say this is a great perk for melee characters with the exception of the Prismatic Hammer Science combo, mainly because it's just unneeded there. Look at our Paladin build. But for melee characters who use pretty much any other melee weapon, I'd say it's great, and it stacks really well with Toughness, giving 50% more base health, as well as Harvester returning 15% health back on a kill. Combine Tit for Tat, Toughness, and Harvester for a fantastic melee build with a good recovery method. A very solid perk, but only for melee builds, of course. Solo Sneaker is the last of the perks to discuss before we narrow down our pool of best perks. Solo Sneaker decreases the detection radius of enemies by 33% when you have no companions. It is helpful for sure, and it's the icing on the cake for a stealth, assassin, thief kind of build. However, Sneak isn't crazy powerful, and this perk relies on the fact that A, you're a sneaking character, and B, also a no companion character, so it doesn't get into the best category as far as I'm concerned. But that, ladies and gentlemen, are all of the perks discussed, so let's have a look at what the best of them all are, and we will try to determine the best singular perk if possible. So I'd say the top contenders are Armor Master, Confidence, Harvester, Wild Science and Weird Science, Soliloquy, Lone Wolf, and maybe even Toughness, as boring as it sounds. We can now play process of elimination here, so Wild and Weird Science allow us to achieve the highest damage in the game combined with the Prismatic Hammer, and improves other science weapons immensely. But they are niche perks built around a niche style, not applicable for all builds. Soliloquy is fantastic for a dialogue-focused character, offering a total skill point boost worth 30 points, aka 3 levels worth, but once again, that's really niche. Lone Wolf gives a 25% flat damage across the board, and I would argue it's actually one of the best perks, but of course, you need to have no companions. But aside from that one condition, it applies to every single character and gives them benefit. Confidence is a fantastic perk, offering benefit to characters even without high combat skill, and especially if they have high intelligence, but it would still be best utilized by characters that have high damage shots or weak spot hits and such, that will deliver that guaranteed kill, so you can chain crit after crit after crit. So I don't think it can be quite the best. which leaves us with Armor Master, Harvester, and Toughness. As boring as it sounds, Toughness delivers a massive base health boost, which is useful for pretty much every single build, with it being much more vital for some others. But everyone is going to benefit from being able to take a larger beating before they die, so it's up there. And it has great synergy with Harvester, which basically benefits all characters who ever kill, but it especially benefits those that are more combat oriented. Armor Master gives a 10% armor rating boost, which is substantial, a nice little boost to defense, but it really is the 100% armor skill bonus that takes the cake here. I think every single build can benefit from this perk, and it also allows a character to get a lot more benefit from switching up gear, allowing them to tackle many more situations. Even if your character has a very singular focus and maxes out their skills, this perk will benefit you by taking those skills beyond an effective value of 100 by using certain armors, or instead, it could make up for weak spots in your build. The potential is limitless. So at the end of the day, what do I think is the best perk? Well, if the criteria is a fantastic perk that is applicable to pretty much every single playstyle and build, then I'd say Armor Master takes the cake. This may be a bit of a personal opinion as well. If you were to say Lone Wolf or Confidence are the best, then I could understand that as well. But ultimately, I think Armor Master is the best perk. It applies to every single build. But there you go, ladies and gentlemen. What did you think? Give the video a like if you enjoyed the video, and especially if you like analysis like this, and do subscribe for more builds and Outer Worlds content. My name is Scott from FudgeMuppet, and I'll be back to nerd out with you again next time.